Dalje nastavljamo verbs and the verb phrase. Dakle, stigli smo, ako se sećate, evo sad ćemo da aktiviramo prezentaciju. Dobro, da li svi vidite prezentaciju? Je se vidi prezentacija?
Vidi se.
Dobro, hvala. Dobro. So if you remember, we stopped midway through exercise 51. Sorry, exercise 3 on page 51. And actually, we moved on to page 52 in the workbook. And the last example that we did was cancel, when I told you that in British English, you double the final letter, the final L, or L letter. The same case with, of course, cancel, travel, signal, and so on. So you don't have to double it in American English. The next example is regret. Okay. So let's talk to someone about regret. Is Sarah here?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah. So how would you form the verbal paradigm of regret?
Regret, regrets, regretted, regretting, and regretted.
Okay. Does anything interesting happen? Anything out of the ordinary?
Well, the three last forms have the double T.
Yes, very good. Okay, and it's a very good example for us to revise the rule that we mentioned last time. And the rule is actually that, if you remember, if the last syllable is stressed, and if the vowel in the last syllable is spelled with a single letter, which in this case is, so both things happen, you have one E in regret, and it's not regret, it's regret, it's on the second syllable. This means that you will have to double the final consonant in spelling in the last three forms. Okay, thank you. Very good. Okay, is Jovana with us? Jovana Davidović? If not, then Mila Jović. Jovana, you are here?
Yes.
Okay, Jovana. What about light?
Lights. Then lights. Lit.
Yes.
Light and lit.
Okay, very good. So the interesting thing that happens here is that light becomes lit in VED1 and VED2, so in the past form and the past participle. Light, lights, lit, lighting, lit. Thank you. Okay, Dunja Knežev. Can Dunja hear us?
Yes.
Dunja. Okay, what about spell?
Spell, spells, spelled, spelling, spelled.
Okay, good. You treated it as a regular verb and you just added ed in both VED forms, which is fine. I mean, it's one of the options. Do you maybe know which other option is available? There are actually two forms in the past form and the past participle form.
Spelled.
Spelt. Good. So it's not, could be spelled, of course, as you said, just add ed, or could be spelt. Now, how do you spell spelt if it is with T?
With one L.
One L, very good. So S-P-E-L-T, spelt. You drop one L and then you add the T. A similar thing happens if you remember with learn. So it can be learn, learned, learned, but it can also be learn, learned, learned. Okay, so I mean, it's not really the same because you don't have this problem with L at the end, but it is of a similar kind with, sorry, I forgot to show it on the screen. Okay, so with spelled, it's just LT. Okay, good. The next one is shine, and we are going to talk to Mila Jovic. Is she here? Mila, can you hear us? If Mila is not here, then Teodora Đorđević.
I'm here.
Okay, so what about shine?
Profesorka Mila je napisala da je prisutna, ali joj mikrofon ne radi.
Ja sam satisfaktovala sjednicu dana, jer istovremeno gledam i u vežbanku i u ekran sa prezentacijom, pa nisam premestila. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Okay, good. So it was Teodora that we contacted. So,
Yes.
what about
Shine, shines, shined, shining, shined.
Okay, now you said shined, which is not impossible. I mean, you will find it in the dictionary, but then it has a very special, specific meaning. It's not really the meaning of shine like radiate light. If you talk about that prototypical meaning of shine, like the sun was shining yesterday or something like that, then it will not be shined, then it's not a regular verb. But do you have any idea? I mean, can you maybe think of another irregular shine?
Shown or no?
Shine, shone, from.
Yeah.
This is one here. Okay. Now, the one that you mentioned does exist, but it means something else. For instance, you can say, I shined my shoes yesterday. I shined my shoes. What would it mean, Teodora, then?
Can you repeat? My connection is bad, so I didn't hear.
I shined my shoes yesterday, or she shined the floor. What would it mean then?
Maybe like clean the floor, but with.
So clean it so much that it shines, actually. Okay, like polish or something like that. Uglačati bismo mi rekli, onako do sijanja. So in that case, shine is a regular verb. Shine, shined, shined. In that case, but in all other cases, meaning to radiate light, to spread light, and so on. And then it's this one, the irregular form. Okay, thank you. Okay, Jovan Lazičić.
Some.
Jovane. What about offer?
Offer, offers, offering.
Okay, first comes the past form. Offer, offers.
Offered.
Offered, and then what you said, offering, and finally again.
Again, offered.
Offered, good. Okay, it's regular. Does anything interesting happen?
Nothing.
Nothing, very good. Nothing happens. Now, let's check out the rule that I gave you. And you will see that it's very, very logical, actually, that nothing happens. Where is the stress, Jovane? Where is the stress on offer? Is it on the first or on the second syllable? Do you say offer or do you say offer?
Offer on the first.
Very good. So if you remember the rule says that it has to be on the second syllable in order for the final consonant to be doubled. So if it's on the first syllable, then there is no doubling, which means that it's just offer without doubling at the end. Good. Thank you. Is Andrea Nojčić here?
I'm here.
Andrea. So what about refer?
Refer, refers, referred.
I lost you for a minute. Okay, so refer, refers.
Sorry, my connection is bad.
Okay, sorry.
Referring and referred.
Okay, so twice referred, and it's a regular verb, but what happens in the last three forms?
R is doubled.
The final R is doubled. Here it is, refer, refers, referred, referring, referred. The final R is doubled. Again, why? Where is the stress, Andrea, on refer?
On the second syllable.
Second syllable, very good. So you don't say refer, but refer. And plus that other part of the rule, look at the letter that represents the syllable in the second, the vowel in the second syllable. It's just one E, so it's that's why it's doubled at the end. Okay, and the last one. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to show it immediately. Okay, let me see, is Milica Petrović here? Okay, if not, then Dušica Miladinov.
I'm here.
Dušice, what about lose?
The first one is lose, then loses,
Uh-huh.
then lost,
Uh-huh.
losing, and again lost.
Very good, thank you. Mind you, pay attention to something quite interesting. I mean, you know that unfortunately, in English spelling, there seem to be no rules, or at least when you think you have established some kind of a rule, then you find a counterexample immediately, like, for instance, this one, why not lose, why lose, if it's spelled this way. And if you compare it, for example, to choose, which is spelled with double O, choose is much more logical to be pronounced as choose than lose is. Why am I telling you this? Because very often students tend to confuse lose and loose. So you spell loose with double O, L-O-O-S-E, that's loose, and loose means something different. Of course, it's disputable whether it's even a verb, because loosen would be a verb, and so on. But please spell lose the way it is spelled here. So it's just one O, and it's an irregular verb. Okay, thank you very much. We will now move on to another exercise. Actually, the next one, if you have your workbooks open on page 52, it is the fourth exercise. So this was the third one. Exercise number 4 says, underline the restricted VPs in the following sentences and determine their type according to structure and finiteness. I would just like to say a few words just to remind you. I know that you did this with Sasha as long as, I think, 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, but I still think that these categories might cause some confusion, especially finiteness. So let me just find it. For those of you who have the workbooks, you can just open them on page 31. And just very, very briefly, there are these 3 divisions or 3 ways of dividing VPs. The first one is into extended and restricted VPs. Here we are required to find, of course, restricted VPs, and everything we do till the end of this year will be actually about restricted VPs. Restricted VP is just another expression for the VP itself. It is just the VP. The extended VP is actually the same as the predicate, what we did at the beginning, so the verb and all its complements and objects and so on. So when we say VP, we mean restricted VP. That's the first thing. The second thing, and that's on page 32, is the category of finiteness. Samo možda da vam ovo pomogne, to je ono što u srpskom zovemo lični i bezlični glagolski oblici. Lični su oni koji imaju slaganje u različitim kategorijama glagolskim sa ili imeničkim ili glagolskim kategorijama sa subjektom. Dakle, u srpskom je to, da kažem, dosta komplikovanije, pošto imate slaganje i po licu, i po rodu, i po broju, u engleskom bar taj rod možete da zaboravite, pa uglavnom i broj, osim u trećem licu jednine, naravno u prezentu, tu morate da pazite. Okay, so once again, finite VPs have all those verbal categories that we will be dealing with: tense, aspect, mood, voice, modality. And you will recognize them easily because usually there is a subject, there is a verb which agrees with the subject, and these are all those tense aspect combinations that we will be dealing with. Simple present, present progressive past, progressive future, perfect, progressive, and so on, all these possible combinations. On the other hand, non-finite VPs, they do not show agreement with the subject. The subject is usually missing, by the way. I mean, missing at least at the surface level, you can't see it. And there are only two categories which can be traced in non-finite VPs, that's aspect and voice. So if you take a look at page 32, you will actually see that there are only two non-finite forms in the English language. Infinitival forms or infinitives, such as do and to do, so the bare infinitive and the to infinitive. And there are participles, the present participle, or we call it the ing participle, like speaking, singing, stopping, playing, whatever. But mind you, just the ing form, not possibly other auxiliaries, because then you form a finite VP if you have an auxiliary. So the VING, or the present participle, and the VED form, or the past participle. That's what you used to call treća kolona, okay, in your table of irregular or regular verbs, whatever. So what we now call the past participle, so that is the only other form that is non-finite. So infinitival forms and participial forms, the present participle and the past participle. On page 32, so please just look at it. I wanted to say look at it at home, as if you were somewhere else now. I mean, it's very difficult for me to think of this as a class that you are taking from listening to from home. So please take a look at this in greater detail, because there are some interesting examples with the use of finite and non-finite forms, especially non-finite ones. Again, let me just help you. There are counterparts in Serbian, there are equivalents in Serbian that are also non-finite. Dakle, i u srpskom su vam recimo infinitivni oblici, bezlični glagolski oblici. Isto tako, recimo glagolski prilog sadašnji, glagolski prilog prošli, kao što je recimo razgovarajući sa komšinicom, zarez, primetila sam nešto. Evo, razgovarajući, bezlični, ali vidite, nema iskazanog subjekta u zavisnoj rečenici i nema slaganja u rodu, broju i vremenu između subjekta i glagolskog oblika, odnosno predikata. Dakle, razgovarajući ili završivši domaći zadatak, otišla sam da se igram. Završivši, glagolski prilog prošli. U srpskom imamo još tih bezličnih oblika, a to su glagolski pridev radni i glagolski pridev trpni. Kao što je, ne znam, igrala, igralo, igrali, i kao što su, ne znam, napisan, napisana, napisano, jel da samo ih menjate po rodovima, ništa drugo, to su vam drugi primjeri glagolskih, odnosno bezličnih glagolskih oblika. Ok, posljednja napomena, mislim da je to prilično jasno. Complex and simple VPs. Complex VPs are those which consist of at least two elements, which means that they have one main verb and at least one auxiliary. Simple VPs have just one main verb, so there are no auxiliaries attached to it. There is just one component. Just be careful when you apply the do support transformation, like she wanted to come, and then the do support would be she didn't want to come. We still treat this didn't want as a simple form. Although you can, of course, observe that there is an auxiliary and there is a main verb, but it was originally in the positive declarative form not a complex VP, and we had to just add this do for the sake of forming negation. So it was not originally part of the VP. So that's why it's not treated as a complex VP, but as a simple one in cases of negation and questions with do support. Okay, thank you. So let's look at exercise 4. It says that we should underline the VPs and determine the structure and finiteness. Structure means simple or complex. Finiteness means finite or non-finite. But the first step is to underline the VP correctly. Okay, so in the first example, there are as many as 4 different VPs. Okay, is Milivoj here? Milivoj Popov?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello. So, Milivoj, could you please find or identify the first VP here?
Having.
Okay, is it really just having? I mean, having does belong to it, but is it the end?
Having finished.
Having finished, very good. So please underline having finished. That's it, having finished. Now, what do you think? Is it complex or simple? Look at it.
Probably complex because it has 2 verbs.
Very good. It is complex because it has an auxiliary and a main verb, so complex. Very good. And is it finite or not finite? You can, again, if you wish, use the help of Serbian, završivši večeru, pa neko je uradio nešto. Okay, in other words, in this small dependent clause, do you really have a normal subject-verb relationship? Do you have agreement with the subject and so on in having finished?
Probably not.
So then it is it finite or non-finite?
Non-finite.
Non-finite, very good. So it is complex, as you said, and non-finite. Once again, it's non-finite because it doesn't show agreement with the subject, which is, by the way, even missing in this first subordinate or dependent clause. It is only later that Mary appears. Okay, very good. Thank you. Danica, is Danica here? Mitrovic Danica?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, Danica, thank you. Now let's move on with this sentence. Where is the next VP?
Sent.
Very good. Mary sent. Let's talk about sent.
Sent is simple.
Simple. Sorry. It's simple. Yes.
And it's finite.
Finite. Very good. Simple and finite. Once again, why is it finite? It is in the simple past tense. It is next to the subject. It shows agreement with the subject, although you can't maybe see it because it's in the past. But if it were in the present, you would say Mary sends. So it's obvious that it is a finite VP. Lični glagolski oblik bismo rekli. Thank you. Verica, is Verica Kirčanski here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Verica, hello. So where is the next VP? What do you think? Have 2 more, so you have to find the third one.
Didn't want to.
Okay, you just have to stop after want because to belongs with go. So didn't want, very good. Okay, didn't want. You see, why do you stop here? Think of it functionally as well. Didn't want would be the V element, and then she didn't want what to go. That would be the direct object, you see? So it's somehow to is attached to go. So didn't want. Now, think of it as simple or finite, but be careful. I gave you one warning in connection with do support and inserting do just for the sake of negation.
So it's complex then.
Is it complex if we inserted it just for the sake of negation? So in other words, if you turn it back into its positive declarative form, it was they wanted to go. So it was just added to form negation. It was not originally part of the VP, like in, for instance, having finished. So in having finished, the auxiliary was already here. You didn't add it because of the, I don't know, negation or question or something, okay? So we treat it as simple. Once again, negative and interrogative examples with do support are treated as simple because the auxiliary was just added for these operations. It was not originally here in the positive declarative form. Okay, so it's simple. What do you think about finiteness? It's in the simple. It's in the
It's finite.
finite, very good. So you see we added here this do support just to remind you why we treat this as simple, although you see that it actually has more elements. Good. Thank you. And finally, is Nikola Tomic here? Last time or before that, he had some problems with the microphone. Can he hear us now? If not, then Lalić Svetlana, let's try your luck with the microphone. You had some problems.
Tu sam.
Okay.
Ja možete ponoviti, nisam vas čula.
I was asked you whether your connection was better today, but obviously.
Opet vas ne čujem kako treba.
Okay, can you do the last repeat? Can you do the last repeat?
Well, to didn't want to go zajedno.
Vidite, sad smo već rekli da je VP3. So,
Samo to go.
just to go is the last one. Okay, now, which form is it? Which form is it when you see?
Simple. Ma mislim da je simple.
Okay, yes, simple, good. It is non-finite. Why? Because when you look at it, is it an infinitive or is it a participle?
Infinitive.
Infinitive, very good. So when you see to go, to play, to stay, it's obviously infinitive and it's then always non-finite. Thank you. Okay, good. Is Luka here? Luka Manojlović?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Luka. She might have been waiting for him, although she wasn't asked to. Just two VPs here. Where is the first one?
Might have been waiting.
Might have been waiting. Excellent. Okay.
That's complex.
Complex, good.
And finite.
Finite, very good. So it is obviously complex. It has three auxiliaries plus a main verb, and it shows agreement with the subject. There is a subject, and there is tense aspect, voice, and so on, everything. Thank you.
Profesor, imam sam jedno pitanje. Da li će uskoro biti postavljena predavanja? Znam da ste imali nekih problema da ne može da se postave.
Biće i predavanja i prezentacije od prošlonedeljnih ovih, kako se zove, vežbi. Znači,
prezentacije sam vidio da su postavljene, samo predavanja još nisu, pa pitam.
Taj domen, ovo za prezentacije vam sigurno mogu reći za vežbe, zato što, mislim, to je i moj resor, to znam da je u redu. Ovo se nadam da će biti u redu, on se stvarno dosta muči da to svaki put optimizuje za postavljanje. I mislim, sigurno ćete ih imati postavljene. Sad samo je pitanje brzine i efikasnosti kojom će uspeti da ih postavi, ali biće sigurno. I svake godine je bilo postavljeno, sad je problem zbog ove audio komponente isto. Uvek smo imali, prezentacije su uvek bile stavljene. Sad kažem, ovo samo predavanje, ja ću Saši reći da eto, ubrza stavljanje, ali ja se nadam da će sve biti u redu.
Važi, hvala.
Hvala. Okay, Jovan Čirić, can he hear us maybe if he's here? If not, then Mara Gozdenović.
Jovan said that he can hear you, but his microphone is not working.
Okay, so I have a category here with problems with M. To samo zato ovde pišem jer želim da zaista znate da konstatujem da ste ovde Dakle, ovo nije nikakva vrsta nedostatka za vas. Žao mi ako ne možete da sve koristite kako treba. So, Mara Gozdenović. Where is the second VP?
The next VP is well, wasn't asked or just said.
Asked. Very good. Wasn't asked. Now, what do you think? You just, when you see negation, you put it back into the positive form and you see whether it had an auxiliary.
Well, it's complex, probably.
Yes, it's complex because was here. Even if you said, although she was asked to, you see, it is complex. Good. And it is?
Finite.
Finite, yes. It's in the simple past. Obviously, it is finite. Thank you.
I have a question. When I did it in advance on myself just 3 minutes ago, I underlined wasn't asked to. And now I'm confused why it's only wasn't asked.
Okay, because in this case, you see this two here. Actually, it represents the beginning of what we call ellipsis, or what we call omission of the predication, avoiding the repetition of the predication. Imagine if we didn't have this possibility, then we would have a sentence like this one. She might have been waiting for him, although she wasn't asked to be waiting for him, you see? So this too actually does not belong to wasn't asked, but it belongs to something that would follow if it were here. If we did not have this mechanism of avoiding the repetition of the predication, then we would need another VP. She might have been waiting for him, although she wasn't asked to be waiting for him. So in that case, if you had that, these two would belong to the third VP, to the next one. But in any case, it wouldn't belong to wasn't asked, you see? Because what follows is another VP, possibly, if it were here. Does this clarify things?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you are welcome. Thank you. Now, sentence C. Having been offended before, he was very sensitive. Okay, is Philip Dimoski here, maybe? If he can hear us. If not, then Jovana Banjanin.
It's me.
Okay, Jovana. So, where is the first VP?
Having been offended.
Having been offended, excellent.
So it's complex and non-finite.
Excellent, complex and non-finite, very good. Mi bismo rekli bivši uvređena već ranije, naravno malo nakaradno zvuči na srpskom, imamo inače problem sa tim formiranjem glagolskog priloga sadašnjeg i prošlog od glagola biti, dakle budući bi bio glagolski prilog sadašnji, bivši bi bio glagolski prilog prošli, a sad to je već druga priča. However, this is clearly complex, of course, because it has two auxiliaries and it is non-finite. There is no subject and no agreement with the subject. Good. And there is another VP here. Let's ask Marko Adžić.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. So there is still one other VP in this.
I think that the other VP was sensitive.
Okay, but it's just was, because if you remember the division into Svoca, he would be the subject, was would be the verb, and then very sensitive would belong to the subject complement. Okay, so you can't really extract elements from the subject complement. So actually was would be the only verbal element here. Yes, underline was. So is it simple or complex? It's quite obvious actually.
It's simple.
It's simple, yes. And is it finite or non-finite? It's
that it's finite.
finite. Very good. It's simple and finite because it's in the simple past tense. Obviously, there is a subject, there is agreement with the subject, and so on.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is Jovana Popovic here?
I'm here.
Hello, Jovana Popovic. I've just actually talked to Jovan Popovic this morning, but Jovan Popovic, the school, the primary school, which my daughter attends, by the way. That's why it's nice to talk to Jovana Popovic this time. So, Jovana, she seems to have been waiting for them all morning. Where is VP1?
Seems.
Seems good. What about its features?
It's simple and finite.
And finite, very good. In this case, it's especially visible that it is finite because you even have this third person singular simple present tense ending inflection, which clearly shows agreement with the subject. That's actually the only case in English. Thank you. Okay, is Tamara Ristic here? Tamara, does she hear us? If not, then Bojan Stankovic.
I'm here.
Okay, hello. So, Bojana, where is the second?
To have been waiting.
To have been waiting. Excellent. Now, obviously, simple or complex?
It's complex and non-finite.
Non-finite. Very, very good. It's complex and non-finite. I just want to comment a bit on this non-finiteness. Obviously, it begins with to, which is an indicator of an infinitival structure. Please don't think of infinitives when you don't have to do it now, but when you go back to page 31 and 32, you will find a whole table with infinitives. So don't think of the infinitive just in terms of play to play, sit to sit, go to go. Infinitives can also be inflected, let's say, in terms of expressing, for instance, something that was in the past. So to be waiting, to have been waiting, to see, to have seen. But as soon as you see this beginning to, it is called the infinitival particle. As soon as you see this particle, it means, and it is an indicator of the fact that you are dealing with an infinitival form. So to have been waiting is an infinitive. To be waiting is an infinitive. To have been waiting. To see, to have seen. To remember, to have remembered. To have been remembering. All these are infinitival forms. Thank you. Okay, is Sergey here?
I'm here.
Okay, hello, Sergey. I couldn't answer the phone because I was having a shower at the time. Where is VP1?
Couldn't answer.
Okay, very good. Couldn't answer. Now put it back into the positive declarative form and see whether it still consists of two elements.
It does.
Yes, so it's
complex.
It's complex, very good. And it is?
And I would say that it's non-finite.
Is it really non-finite? It has I, so it has the subject. It agrees with the subject, although, I mean, it's not that obvious in the past tense, but I spoke to him yesterday. I couldn't find something. So it is a sentence in which the subject is followed by the VP in the past tense. So it's more of a finite VP. So non-finiteness is strictly related to forms which lack the subject and which do not show agreement in all those five forms: tense, aspect, mood, voice, which in this case is, I mean, not what happened. So it's complex and it's finite. Okay, thank you. Is Angela Jankovic here? She had some problems with the microphone. If she still has them, then it's not a problem. Let's see, Vladimir Jovic. Can Vladimir join us? Okay, he's not here. Then Aleksandar Đorđević. He's not here either. Ognjen Pajić.
I'm here.
Okay. So where is the second VP? Because I was.
It was having.
Was having, good.
Which is complex and finite.
Complex and finite, very good. So was having obviously an auxiliary and a main verb. It is in the past tense, past progressive. There is a subject, that's I, and it is what we would call lični glagolski oblik, tuširao sam se. So it's even more obvious in Serbian. I'm sorry that it's not that obvious in English, but in Serbian we have so many categories that you have to obey, actually, that it is then more obvious. Fine. The next one is our colleague Zoric here. If not, then Jelena Kurilic, is she here? Alexandra Ungur. Okay, at least now then I know who's not here. Branislava Vujanic.
I'm here.
Okay, Branislava. What will you be doing tomorrow at 5? Not that I'm curious about you, but...
Well?
Okay, let me just help you with something. VP2 does not exist here. There is only one VP, and this was put here just for the sake of symmetry.
Then it's will be doing.
Will be doing, of course. Will be doing. Treba i be doing, ali neću odmah, zato što će odmah da se pojavi i ostalo. So, will be doing. Simple or complex?
It's complex.
Complex.
And
you will be doing something.
I think it's finite.
It's finite, yes. It's in the future progressive. There is a subject here. And that's, of course, you have inversion because of the interrogative form. Good.
Yep.
Thank you. In the meantime, can Tamara Ristic hear us maybe? Okay, if not, then Sarah. Okay, Sarah Samadžić. I couldn't answer the phone because I was having a shower at the time. VP1. Sorry, we had this one. This is, now I remember, this is the one that's unfortunately given twice. If you look at example E, it's actually the same one. So we'll just skip it because we've done it. And H, I found him working in the garden. VP1.
Found.
Found, good.
It's simple and finite.
Simple and finite, excellent. Simple past tense, there is a subject, and it's finite. And the last one, okay, Jovana Davidović. Jovana, where is the VP2?
Working.
Working, excellent.
It's simple and non-finite.
Simple, non-finite, very good. Obviously simple, no auxiliaries. And it's just one ing form without any kind of agreement with the subject. Even if you look at the dependent clause, there is no subject. I subject, found verb, him object direct, and then working in the garden is a non-finite clause, subordinate clause. So obviously it does not, let's say, agree directly with any kind of subject within the subordinate clause, and it's an ing form, so present participle, non-finite form. Very good, thank you. Now we will move on to something completely different, and that's mood. I guess we are not really in a perfect mood these days. I'm now, of course, using another meaning. I'm using the word in another meaning of mood, but it's not really completely unrelated. So mood, in the sense of how we feel, is not really something completely different from mood as a verbal category. In Serbian, we would call it glagolski način, of course. And before we do this exercise, I would just like you to, if you can, of course, and if you have your workbooks, if not, it's not a problem, just take a look at the category of mood on page 33. So page 33 in your workbooks. Just very, very briefly, the category of mood, what we call glagolski način in Serbian, is a threefold category in English, which means that it has three members: the indicative mood, the subjunctive mood, and the imperative mood. More or less, I guess that the indicative and the imperative do not really require any further discussion. I just want to say something about the indicative mood, because most of you are not aware that we are using it practically all the time. Whenever you say something, whenever you state a fact about the present, past, or the future, you say what happened, what is happening, what will be happening, and so on. It's always in the indicative. So it's that, let's say, neutral mood. I u srpskom postoji naravno indikativ. Uopšte ga ne primećujemo zato što je on neobeleženi glagolski način. I ovdje vam piše unmarked form. He works in a factory, for instance. On the other hand, the subjunctive and the imperative are marked forms. They are used less frequently, and they have some special uses. The imperative is, I think, quite clear and self-evident. So when you issue commands, requests, suggestions, and so on, in the second person, singular and plural, then it's in the imperative mood. Play in the garden, go away, and so on. There are even ways to express the imperative in the first and the third person as well, with let, like let us play in the garden, let them go to the beach, and so on. It's not really the typical imperative, but it's considered to be in the imperative mood. Now, what we are interested in, and what represents something new, is the subjunctive mood. There is no direct correspondent in Serbian to the subjunctive mood in English. It's not to say that we cannot translate and that we cannot say the same things that we say in English by using the subjunctive, that we cannot do that in Serbian. Of course we can, but we do not use the same verbal form. There is no subjunctive mood as such. The subjunctive mood in English exists as the present subjunctive and as the past subjunctive, very roughly. If you look at page 34, the present subjunctive is explained in detail. It's very easy as a form to remember. It's just the base form of the verb. So there is no other inflection, nothing that you add to the base form. Go, see, play, work, discuss, always that base form. And it's interesting to notice that even in the third person singular, it lacks inflections. So I insist that he go. I demand that she stay. So when you see sentences like these, it's not a mistake. It's not an error. It is as it should be, because it is that use of the subjunctive mood called the mendative subjunctive. We will say something about it, which makes use of the present form of the subjunctive mood, which requires no inflections, just the base form itself. So as I said, the first form is the mendative subjunctive, and you use it with various recommendations, suggestions, certain orders, with insisting on something, and so on. So, for instance, you have an example here. It is my recommendation that he resign. Of course, this phrase, it is my recommendation, can be also expressed as I recommend that he resign. It is my recommendation that he resign. Or it is strongly recommended that he resign. All these variations are possible, and they are always followed by the mandative subjunctive, which is the present subjunctive, actually. You have to be careful in the passive voice that his decision be reconsidered. That, for instance, I insist that Mary be fired. So it is the be form for the passive voice. And you have to be careful with the negative transformation. So no auxiliaries anymore, you just add not. I insist that she not leave the office. We demanded that they not stay here anymore, and so on. Be careful with the progressive as well. Another thing, I suggested, the example here, I suggested that she be working. What would be the negative transformation? I suggested that she not be working. So no do anymore, no do support. That would be the mandative subjunctive. Another use of the present subjunctive is, as it says here, for clauses of condition, concession, and purpose, if need be, even if that be the official view, and so on. You will hear this quite rarely. However, these expressions do exist, especially in American English. In British English, they tend to be replaced by the should plus infinitive structure more often. So the mandative subjunctive and the subjunctive in general, the present subjunctive, is more frequent in American English. I suggest, now a good use of the subjunctive, I suggest that you listen more carefully to courtroom films, to dialogues in courtroom movies, such as, for instance, the film The Judge, or the film, I don't know, Primal Fear, or what else? The one with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. Oh my God, in the army. I will remember. So any kind of courtroom film with courtroom scenes has a very, very large number of present subjunctives used. I demand that the court be dismissed, and so on. And finally, the formulaic subjunctive. It is used in set expressions. There is nothing you can do about them. You can't change them. They are petrified. They are fixed, like God save the Queen, come what may, heaven forbid that, far be it from me, and so on. Now, just this first example, I want to show you how interesting this is. God save the Queen. Why is it not in the imperative mood? Well, first of all, you would have to have a comma after God, and then it would actually be a signal to you that it's in Serbian, for instance, in the vocative case, Bože čuvaj kraljicu. To nije Bože čuvaj kraljicu. You are missing the comma here, and you are missing an exclamation mark at the end. Ovo je neka Bog čuva kraljicu. God save the Queen. How do you know that it's not the indicative either? Then you would need the third person singular ending inflection, S. So it would be God saves the Queen then. So it's not God saves the Queen, it's not God, comma, save the Queen, but it's God save the Queen, which means neka Bog čuva kraljicu, and it is a typical example of the formulaic subjunctive. Finally, the past subjunctive is used especially often in hypothetical situations, so in situations which are far from the truth or reality of facts. Like, if I were you, I would resign. Of course, I can never be you. It always has present time reference. Dakle, preveli bismo kao da sam na tvom mestu, a ne da sam bila na tvom mestu, je tako? So if I were you actually means I am not you, so I cannot resign. But if I were you, I would resign. Or on page 35, he treats her as if he knew her. Now, there is a mistake here in the workbook, please. the sentence is fine. He treats her as if he knew her, but this is not an example of the past subjunctive, because if it were an example of the past subjunctive, I have just used one, by the way. If it were an example, then you would need the form were. The form were is the only form of the past subjunctive. All other forms like this new here, they are fine, but they are not called the past subjunctive. They're called modal past. Why modal past? Because they refer to the present time, actually. He treats her as if he knew her. Ophodi se prema njoj kao da je poznaje, ne kao da ju je poznavao. So it refers to the present, but you use a past tense form for referring to the present. But mind you, once again, this is not the past subjunctive. But the next one, if only she were here, I wish the journey were not over. These are all typical examples of the past subjunctive. The past subjunctive always refers to the present and always refers to something that is hypothetical, something that cannot take place, something that cannot really happen. That's why it's hypothetical. And one last thing, very often in informal language, it is replaced by the form was. Like, if only she was here. I wish the journey was not over. But it's not really considered to be quite grammatically correct, and it's not considered to be formal enough. So in everyday colloquial language, it's fine, but it's not really grammatically 100% correct. And more importantly for us, it does not represent an example then of the past subjunctive. But of modal past. The past subjunctive has to be that one and only, the one and the only form is were here. So it's just were. You will recognize it very, very easily. So finally, the exercises. I know that this introduction was long, and I know that you mentioned it all with Sasha, but I know that the subjunctive mood is always a kind of issue with first-year students because it's really something new. So in exercise 13, that's exercise 13, we will have to skip a few exercises after that fourth one. Exercise 13 in your workbooks is on page 57. Specify whether the underlined verb phrase in each sentence is indicative, imperative, present, or past subjunctive. So what you should think of first is whether it is only about simply telling you something about the present, past, or future. If that is the case, then it's always in the indicative mood. If there is some kind of hypothetical meaning, it's always the past subjunctive. If it is some kind of order, recommendation, request, suggestion, it's usually in the imperative mood. Okay, so think about these things in these exercises. Fine. Okay, Dunja Knežev. Dunja, can you hear us? Okay, if not, then Teodora Đorđević.
I'm here.
Teodora. After that, there were no more disturbances. What do you think?
Maybe indicative.
Indicative. There is nothing hypothetical about this. You simply are telling something that happened in the past. And that's it. So there is nothing that you speculate about. Indicative. Good. B. Supposing she were here now, what would you do? Okay, Jovan Lazičić.
Supposing she were here now, what would you do?
Okay, is she here now? That's the first question.
No, we're just supposing that she...
We're just supposing, we are just saying something hypothetical. So, what do you think then? And it is the form were.
That would be the past subjunctive or...
Very good, very good. Past subjunctive. Why? Supposing, first of all, if you see she and were, you know that this can never happen in the indicative mood. She is always followed by was in the indicative. So supposing that she were here, it's immediately a signal for the subjunctive, plus this supposing, which tells you that it's something hypothetical. Good. Okay, Dušica Miladinov. It is essential that she return immediately.
Maybe imperative.
Do you really, I mean, yes, if you think about it, you would give her an order, but are you ordering her here anything in this sentence? Or are you stating the fact that it is essential that she return?
Then indicative.
But, yes, indicative would be in the first part. It is essential that. But look at this, that she return. Is it normal with the indicative to have she and return?
Oh no, there should be S, but it's not.
So then what is it?
Subjunctive?
Yes, it is the present subjunctive and that subtype is mandative. Dakle, sve ono što počinje sa, ako se sećate, it is essential that, it is recommended that, I suggest that. These are all examples of mandative subjunctive and always used with the present subjunctive. Evo vidite po ovom she return. Dakle, to ne biste tu kombinaciju nikad mogli drugačije imati. Okay, thank you. Milivoj Popov?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, could you please just read it out loud, the next one?
I had nothing to do with it, so help me God.
So what do you think? You have heard this a million times, so help me God.
Imperative mood.
Is it imperative? So help, ajde da probamo da prevedemo na srpski. So help me God. Da li je to Bože pomozi mi ili je to ono što kažemo tako mi Bog pomogao?
Pa, verovatno ovo drugo.
Da, inače ne bih pitala, je li tako? Dakle, šta je onda to? Sećate se ono malo pre, God save the queen. Ovo spada u te takozvane, sad neću da kažem reč, so help me God. Tako mi, dakle, ovo nije so, pazite, ovo nije so, zarez, help me God. U smislu, pa, zarez, Bože pomozi mi. Nego, tako mi Bog pomogao, neka mi Bog pomogne.
Then it's present subjunctive.
Yes, very good. Which subtype? So it's not mandative now. It's not that it is essential that, it is suggested that, but?
Formulaic subjunctive.
Formulaic, good. Dakle, ovo formulaic treba da vas podsjeća na reč formula. So it's a kind of formula. It's a kind of fixed set expression petrified in time that is used in certain situations appropriately, like discourse formulas. So help me God. Tako mi Bog pomogao. Tako se inače završava recimo američka predsjednička zakletva. So if you watch the inauguration, for instance, now in January, on January the 20th, try listening to how Biden will end his presidential oath. In the end, he will say, so help me God. Tako mi Bog pomogao. So I will do that and that and that and that to protect the American people. So help me God. Okay.
Profesorka, sličan primjer je i kad se čovjek zaklinje u sudu, u anglosaksonskom pravu, pa kaže sve, that I shall tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Mislim, isto ustaljeni izraz.
Jeste, odlično ste se to setili. Dakle, to su uglavnom te visoko institucionalizovane da kažem, situacije u kojima nemate vi izbor kako hoćete da se izrazite, nego jednostavno morate da pratite dakle, izraze kojima ste se i pravno obavezali na nešto. Dakle, ovaj so help me God je deo predsjedničke zakletve ili deo zakletve na sudu da ćete govoriti istinu, što znači da ste time se, niste samo tako rekli nešto ofrlje ili bez veze, nego ste se time pred zakonom što kažu pred Bogom i pred ljudima, jel ne kaže se više tako, ali obavezali ste se da ćete govoriti istinu, da ćete štititi interes američkog naroda, ustav i šta ja znam. Jeste, dobro ste nas podsjetili. Dakle, to je formulaic subjunctive. Ok, thank you. Ok, Luka Manojlović.
Yes, I'm here.
I asked the reference to be sent to the manager.
Maybe present subjunctive mandative.
Excellent. Present subjunctive mandative. It is in the passive voice, by the way. And Luca, what do you think? How would you make it? Now, it's not, of course, in the task, but I'm asking you, how would you make it negative? I told you that there is something interesting about negation. I asked the references.
Not to be sent.
Not be sent to the manager. So when you make it negative, there is no do support, there is no auxiliary, you just add the not, and it is mandative subjunctive in the passive voice, of course, this time. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Sergej Bojovic.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sentence F.
If it's not raining, take the dog for a walk. That's indicative.
Is it really?
No, it's imperative.
Yes, good that you self-corrected. So it's in the imperative, take the dog for a walk. So it's a typical imperative because it's in the second person singular. Actually we don't see it if it's in the singular, but it's in the second person, and it's an example of issuing a kind of order, request, recommendation, whatever in this case. Thank you. Okay. If we hear from her, I'll call you. Okay, Jovana Popović.
I'm here.
So look at this here, like listen to or hear. If we hear from her, I'll call you. What do you think?
Indicative.
Yes. Good. That's it. Branislava Vujanić.
Yes. If I were okay, if I were feeling bad, I'd tell you.
The point here is in this were. So this is the form that you focus on. You're not really interested in feeling now because this is the form that is relevant here because it undergoes or doesn't undergo a certain kind of transformation. If I were feeling bad.
Yeah, it's past subjunctive.
Yes, very good. Past subjunctive hypothetical use.
Hypothetical,
yes.
yeah.
Very good. So it's not really the feeling part, the main verb, which is relevant here. It is this were, because here is what really happens in terms of the mood, the category of mood, whether you would use was or were, whether you would at all use something related to the past, and so on. Thank you. Okay, Verica Kirčanski.
I'm here.
Thank you. So, sentence I.
Imperative.
So, could you just please read it out loud? I don't know if.
Okay. It is highly desirable that every effort be made to reduce
Now
expenditure.
Look at this, that every effort be made. Is it really what you would normally use in the indicative? In the indicative, you would probably say that every effort is made. Now, that every effort be made.
No, could be then present subjunctive.
Yes, very good. Which subtype of the present subjunctive? Obviously, it's not formulaic. This is not any kind of a
mandative.
Mandative, good. So mandative, subjunctive, present mandative. Good. Thank you. Okay, Jovana Banjanin.
I'm here. By the time we stopped, we had already been trying for 10 hours.
VPs here stopped and had been driving. Both are the same. Let me help you. The same mood.
Indicative.
Indicative. Both are in the indicative. You are simply saying something about what happened in the past. Good. Now, the next one, I have to warn you in advance, and this makes no sense in this way. I wish we could have a break stop now. Of course, there should be a slash after break. I wish we could have a break slash stop now, in the sense it's either I wish we could have a break or I wish we could stop, could have stopped now, or I wish we stopped now. So be aware that this is not the way it should be, and I will actually do this one for you because it is not really given in the task. It is neither the present or past subjunctive, but it is the modal past. That's the one that I mentioned as a mistake in the workbook, which was not a mistake in the sense that it was wrong, but it was not an example of the past subjunctive. The same thing happened here. I wish we could have a break means I want to have a break now, but I can't. I wish we stopped now means I would like to stop now, but I can't. So it is in the past tense form, referring to the present, to something that cannot happen in the present. So that's why I did it for you. It's not really in the task. Example L. Okay, Bojan Stankovic.
Is it maybe past subjunctive?
Yes, I wish she were here, past subjunctive. Obviously, there are two indicators for this. The first one is that it's a hypothetical situation. Obviously, she is not here now, if you wish that she were here. The second indicator is this were used with she. I mean, if you see she and were, it can never be in the indicative mood. Thank you. Okay, Andrea Anojčić.
I'm here.
Okay, now thank you, two VPs for you. If I were you, I'd resign. What about were first? If I were you.
It is past subjunctive.
Very good. Obviously, I can never be you, so this is highly hypothetical. This is past subjunctive, whereas the second one is?
Indicative.
Indicative. Okay, good. And finally, the last one again contains a mistake. This would that he were still alive again makes no sense. It's actually an error in the workbook. So please, if you have your workbooks, just cross this out. Would that, instead of would that, it should be I wish. So it's not would that, but I wish he were still alive. And let's ask Mark. That's past. Yes, that's past subject.
Sorry, nisam isključila mikrofon, sorry.
Sorry. Rekli ste past subjunctive, uopšte nema veze. Marko će da dobije sledeći primjer. Nemojte se izvinjavati, dobro ste rekli. That I wish he were still alive. Unfortunately, he is not.
Profesorka, taman super, pošto ja imam jednu nejasnoću. Ako nije problem.
Kažite.
Recimo, u primjeru G, if we hear from her, I'll call you.
Aha, samo da nađem. If we hear from her, I'll call you, dobro?
Meni je nekako nejasno. Meni je bilo odlučenje da je to...
Dobro, znam šta hoćete da kažete. Zašto je to indikativ, je li tako?
Da, zbog čega?
Ok, evo ovako. Dakle, radit ćemo kondicionale nešto kasnije tokom godine, ali hajde da se sad malo podsjetimo. Ako se sećate, imali ste onu prilično uprošćenu podelu na prvi, drugi, treći kondicional, pretpostavljam da ste to tako zvali tokom školovanja, pa bi ovo bio onaj takozvani prvi, jel tako? Mi ćemo ga malo drugačije zvati, ali jedino taj prvi se ne zove hypothetical conditional, nego se zove open conditional. Now, why? When we say, if we hear from her, there is still a possibility that we might hear from her. Unlike if we said, if we heard from her, we would call you. Da ste rekli, if we heard from her, that's unlike, that can never happen, because da da čujemo od nje, zvali bismo vas, ali nećemo i ne možemo se čuti s njom, odnosno ne možemo, kako da kažem, drugi, treći kondicional ne ostavljaju mogućnost za glagolsku radnju da bude izvršena. Evo, na primjer, if I were you, I would not do that. It is theoretically impossible to be you. That's why we use the past tense form, in this case the past subjunctive, to express something that can never happen in the present. And that is why it is hypothetical. However, in this example that you asked about, if we hear from you, it's called an open conditional, that first type, there is still a probability, a certain degree of possibility that we might hear from her. And if that happens, you see, not if that happened, but if that happens, I will call you. So that's why, since there is still a possibility, there is still a chance to hear from her, that's why it is treated as an indicative.
Hvala vam, profesorka.
Nema na čemu, nadam se da je bilo jasnije, ali dobro je jako pitanje, dobro je pitanje zato što otvara tu temu kondicionala koje ste vi tako, ajde, paušalno zvali prvi, drugi, treći, a nije uopšte bila poenta da li je on prvi, drugi ili treći, nego je bila poenta, upravo ovo sad što je Marko pokrenuo, poenta je bila da li je značenje, odnosno da li je radnja ostvariva i dalje ili nije. Ako nije, onda je hypothetical i to su bili oni vaši drugi, treći tip. A ako jeste, onda nije hypothetical, nego je open conditional i to je onaj prvi tip. Zato se u prvom tipu koristi indikativ, a u drugom i u trećem tipu se koristi ili past subjunctive ili modal past i modal past perfect. Okay, but it was a very good question and we will deal with it in greater detail later. Okay, but Marco, we still have an example for you in exercise 14. Now it's up to your imagination to fill in the gaps in each subordinate clause with the appropriate verb in the present subjunctive. The point is that you use a correct form. The meaning is not that relevant. Of course, it has to make sense, but okay, I demand that he what at once? So you have
I demand that he wash the windows.
You said watch the windows?
Da opere prozore, ne znam da li mi se palo.
Ok, malo mi puca veza. Dakle, shvatila sam watch, nije važno, znači wash, good. I demand that he wash the windows.
Gledam u prozore, pa
Može i to, evo ja ih sad gledam, ružno je napolje. Dakle, wash, šta god, ali jako je dobro što niste koristili third person singular ending. So there is no third person singular simple present tense ending because it is the present subjunctive. I demand that he wash the windows at once. Good, thank you. Okay, Sergey. She is insistent that they, now you need the passive voice in the subjunctive.
That they be dismissed.
Very good. She's insistent that they be dismissed. Okay, Sergey, what if you wanted them not to be dismissed? She's insistent that they
Not be dismissed.
Not be dismissed. Excellent. So once again, you form you apply the negative transformation by just adding not, no auxiliaries. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's ask Mara Gozdenović. It is essential that she something every day. Okay, think of any verb what she should do every day.
Runs.
Sorry?
Runs.
Okay, but the point is that you can't use you can't use the inflection in the present subjunctive. It's always just the base form. It is essential that she run every day, that she work every day, practice every day, whatever. You have to use the base form without any kind of inflection. Okay, Danica Mitrović.
Here, I'm here.
Okay, Danice. We suggested that your brother
be at our home.
Okay, be at our home or visit our home, leave our home. These are our options, whatever you choose. But the point is that you don't apply the backshift of tenses. There is no sequence of tenses with indirect speech when it comes to the subjunctive. So, dakle, nije we suggested that your brother visited, što bi inače bilo. So, no backshift with the subjunctive mood. Thank you. Okay. Is Mila Jovic here maybe now? Is Mila here? Yes? I can hardly hear you, but let's try. I move that the motion be accepted, okay, or not be accepted if you want to negate it. Thank you. They rejected our recommendation that students' fees, you need the passive voice, Lalić Svetlana.
The students' fees.
So again, you need the passive in the subjunctive. Sad smo imali be accepted, be dismissed, be lowered. And finally, let's ask, pa sad smo već većinu pitali 2 puta, ali hajde, jako mi je žao ako sam slučajno nekog preskočila, gledam da malkice onako skakućem, da ne bude da je očekivan redosled. The last example, can Angela hear us maybe today? I know that she had problems with the microphone. If not, then... Okay, let's ask, I don't know, Dušica Miladinov.
They proposed that David maybe show on our behalf.
Okay, show, maybe show up or something like that. It could be show up, could be speak, intervene, whatever. So the point here, besides, of course, making an intelligible and meaningful utterance, is that you use the present subjunctive without any kind of inflections. Okay, thank you very much. That wraps up the discussion on the subjunctive mood. Next time we will move on and deal with the passive voice, the category of voice. And I will let you know as soon as we get any kind of information about what is going to happen on Tuesday, whether we will have that international online conference or not, and depending on that, whether we will be able to have our practice class next Tuesday. So if not, I will let you know. If yes, then nothing changes and we just meet here next Tuesday at 9 again. Okay, thank you. Good.